This will be an updated video on counterweighting, or also known as counterbalancing. Now, I'm gonna give you 4 tips to counterweighting when it comes to making slow speed turns. I'm also gonna talk about what I think counterweighting does that isn't mentioned much, if at all, in any other videos. And at the end, I'm gonna cover what I think is a little misleading when it comes to counterweighting. So hang tight. Hey, I'm Paul the Motor Guy, and welcome to my channel, where I pass on riding tips, practice drills, and defensive riding strategies to fellow riders. Now, I'm a rider coach, a motorcycle sergeant, and owner and instructor at Pro Rider Center, Texas. So what is counterweighting? Counterweighting is simply keeping the body upright with a slight weight transfer to the high side of the motorcycle, while allowing the motorcycle to lean underneath you. Now, this is used whenever you're doing any slow speed maneuvers such as U-turns. Now, tip number 1 is you want to counterweight early before you initiate your turn. This way you don't upset the motorcycle before starting your turn or in the middle of your turn. Now, tip number 2 is slight hip rotation. Now, here's an example of what the hip rotation looks like from behind. Now, tip number 3 is the upper body. Now, you can lean slightly out with the upper body, like in this next video. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like when you lean out with the upper body too much, which is not really necessary. Now let's look at a video that shows me making a U-turn to the left and then a U-turn to the right. As you're watching my U-turn to the left, I want you to notice that just before the motorcycle starts to lean to the left, I rotate my hips slightly to the right. I keep my chest upright, and I allow the motorcycle to lean underneath me. If you were making a U-turn to the right, you would do just the opposite. You would slightly rotate your hips to the left prior to your turn. Now let's check it out. Now I'm going to show the right U-turn again, but this time I'm going to slow it down. Now I want you to notice how the motorcycle is leaned over underneath me, and my upper body is upright and just slightly leaned outside the motorcycle. Now, if you notice, I said rotate your hips slightly. Now, I've seen many riders that make a big shift of their hips when making U-turns, because they've heard that this will keep the motorcycle from falling. But this is not correct. And let me give you an example. So let's say I'm practicing the 360 exercise and the motorcycle is leaned over, but I'm not in the friction zone. At some point, if I lose momentum and the motorcycle is leaned over to a certain point, 679 pounds trumps 200 pounds all day, every day. And the motorcycle is going to fall. So counterweighting does not keep the motorcycle from falling. Remember, being in the friction zone while making slow speed turns is the only way to keep the motorcycle from falling. If you're not in the friction zone, it doesn't matter how much weight you shift over, the motorcycle is going to fall. Now, if you haven't seen my videos on the friction zone, be sure to go check it out after this video. I'll leave a link up top and in the description below. Now, tip number 4 is pressing on the outside foot peg. Now, this is something that I don't really do, but it can be effective. So as you lean the motorcycle, you can press on the outside foot peg, which will help counterweight some of the lean. So if you're turning to the right, press on the left foot peg. And if you're turning to the left, you're going to press on the right foot peg. Now, this next video will demonstrate how to manipulate the motorcycle by pressing on the foot pegs. Okay, if you've watched any videos on counterweighting, you've probably heard everything I've talked about so far. But here are a couple things about counterweighting you may not have heard before. So let's start with this. Whenever you're making a U-turn and you lean with the motorcycle, instead of using the counterweighting technique, 2 things tend to happen. The first thing is that you have more weight that's leaned over. So you have the weight of the motorcycle and your weight that's leaned over. So now you got to transfer all that weight back up to get out of the turn. Now, the second thing it does, which to me is the most important, is that as we lean over with the motorcycle, our horizon changes, which causes us to lose perception of the ground and gives us more of the sensation of falling, which spooks us and we end up pulling in the clutch and or putting our foot down. So when you're making your tight turns, if you keep your body upright, let the motorcycle lean underneath you and keep your eyes level with the horizon, it would take away a lot of the sensation of falling. And by doing this, it would allow you to lean the motorcycle more, which will tighten up your turns. Now I want to talk about something that you've probably heard before when it comes to counterweighting, which is this. The more you lean the motorcycle over, the more you have to counterweight by leaning your body further outside the motorcycle. Again, if you're in the friction zone, you don't have to do this, and I will prove it to you. Now in this next video, I'm going to ride the 360 exercise. And as I'm riding this, I will begin to push down more and more on the handlebars, which will cause the motorcycle to lean more. Now, what I want you to notice is how I keep my body position the same, and I'm not going to lean way out with my upper body or shift my hips more. And yet, the motorcycle is not going to fall. So let's do this. And now I'm going to show you 3 photos of some of the best riders you'll see. Now in these photos, you're going to see how far the motorcycles are leaned over, and yet the riders are not leaned way outside the motorcycle. Now, this is my opinion, but I believe that the less movement you do on the motorcycle, the better. Now, I want to thank you for watching, and I hope this video gave you a better understanding of the counterweighting technique. Let me know in the comment section below any tips that you use to help you with counterweighting. Now, until next time, practice, 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 and ride safe.